Hi guys, my name is Christine, and today I'm talking about failure and why you should never be afraid to fail. So, the first thing that I want to discuss is your relationship with failure. And your relationship with failure is so important. And the reason why I say that is because if you see failure in a different way, you're going to have a better relationship to it. And if you have a better relationship with failure, you're going to see it's not going to be as dramatic when you do experience failures. You're going to feel a lot better about not succeeding at certain things. And the reason why I say this is because I personally have, for a long time, seen failures and these challenges that come into our lives that appear as failures as to be one of the most transformative sort of experiences, especially if it's a really big failure. So for me, like the more bigger the failure, the more bigger the heartbreak or whatever it may be, I find quite exciting because it often leads me to new awakenings about myself, about my own personal growth. And usually through those tough experiences, I actually learn the most because basically what happens when I personally fail is that it makes me want to search for answers as to how to get it right. And without that failure, I would never come up with the answers. I would never find the answers. And usually by doing that, I actually come to better understandings. So your relationship with failure, and if you have this kind of relationship with failure, similar to the one that I have, I feel like it's going to be transformative for you. And I was really excited about talking about this subject. A commenter who comments a lot called Thomas, he asked if I could do a video based on this kind of thing, asking about, not being afraid to fail. So I want to thank Thomas personally for giving me the idea to talk about this kind of thing because it's something I've actually been living and felt towards failure for a long time. So, the next thing I want to talk about is seeing failures as learning opportunities, which is something I've already touched on a little bit, but I want to dive more deeper into this. So, when you fail, if you truly learn from it and you try and seek answers, try and find out the right way to do something, whatever it may be for you, they're great learning opportunities. They're opportunities for you to learn something new about yourself. It could be to do with something about the subject that you feel like you're failing at. So whether it's something like weight loss, like you haven't been losing the weight that you want to lose, or you've been trying to gain muscle and you haven't been able to do so, and you're wondering why. Usually when these things happen, we search and we seek answers. So instead of beating yourself down and saying things like, oh, I'm such a failure, or why do I always fail, or just simply, I failed at this, that's not a great way to look at it because that just makes you feel bad about yourself, right? And you don't want to feel bad about yourself. You want to feel good about yourself. No one wants to feel bad about themselves. See it as a learning opportunity. See it as a signal that you have a gap in your knowledge somewhere and now you're going to search and try to fill that gap so you can get a better understanding and perhaps succeed the next time around. But here's something that I want to talk to you about when it comes to success and failure. If you have learned something through a failure, you have actually succeeded, right? Now that may sound like a little bit of a paradox, but hear me out. So when you fail at something, but you learn something from it, you have actually won because you are no longer going to make the same mistakes. Because I think I say this quite loosely, but true failure, I think, is when you continue to make the same mistakes over and over and over again and you're not learning the lesson. So you keep on doing the same thing and you are expecting different results. I think that's failure. I think that's when you don't learn from what you're doing, that's failure. Of course, this all comes down to context and what you are personally going through yourself, because perhaps that doesn't quite correlate depending on the situation that you're personally going through. But if you see failure as this, if you see it as a learning opportunity and trying to find the opportunity, whatever it may be, trying to find that thing that you're going to learn from, is really transformative. And I think failures, like having big losses, even small losses, can actually be really beneficial to us because it helps us seek that information that is correct, that will help us get to the point that we want to get to. Because a lot of people see failure as I didn't reach my goal, or I was expecting this result, but the result didn't happen, and they see that as a failure. But instead of seeing those things as failures, how about instead we see those as challenges? So instead of calling it a failure, how about call it a challenge instead? It's just a little reframing, and also it kind of, in a way, kind of gives you the call to adventure, like, oh, I didn't quite get this time. I didn't quite get the result that I wanted. It's time for me to step up. It's time for me to seek and search more answers. It's time for me to, do a bit more research and try to find out what the best route is. Or perhaps it's time for me to do more experimenting with different things so I can get the right mixture, the right ingredients to get the success. But if you see it as like this journey, if you see these things as challenges, then you should never be afraid to fail, because ultimately you're going to learn something. And if you've learned something from it, you haven't failed. You've won. You've actually gained more knowledge. You've actually absorbed, shall we say, the failure, and you've made it become a part of who you are. And you have found, you've realized basically that, hey, this doesn't work. Maybe this new thing will work. Maybe this new thing will work. Maybe if I do this, this will work. So you're absorbing the failure and transmuting it into success, because you've now realized, this didn't work. So now I know not what to do, right? Now I can try and find something different, and therefore I've learned from it. So, it's really seeing failure as something more like this. That's really going to make you not that afraid to fail. In fact, make you kind of excited to fail sometimes, because basically what you know is that if you fail and it hurts and it stings, you are now going to be searching for the correct way to do things, the right way to do things. And it's just basically just this journey of personal growth and personal development, and seeing these failures as opportunities to grow and to learn more. So the next thing I want to talk about as well is that you shouldn't always quit a certain method if that method isn't working for you, because it might be the case that you just need to persist a bit longer. So obviously this really does all depend on the context of what you are doing. So it depends on what you're trying to succeed at. So it could be that you just need to, there's a famous quote, and it was actually a story that was discussed in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and it's called 3 Feet from Gold. And basically what happened is they were, trying to find gold, these miners were trying to find gold, and they quit, they didn't persist long enough. And then someone else got into that mine, and they just went 3 feet further digging, and they managed to get to the gold. So sometimes it can be just, you need to just persist a little bit longer, rather than just quit and try and find a different angle. Sometimes it can be the fact that you just need to carry on just for a little bit longer in order to actually succeed. So you need to really get the mix right of and question what you're doing basically, and think, okay, is this a situation, so you failed and you think, okay, is this a situation where I just need to persist a bit longer? Or do I need to change my approach? Or do I need to change my approach entirely? Because sometimes it might be just a question that you just need a little bit more time. You don't want to quit after a week. So let's say, for example, you've been to the gym for a week and you haven't seen any results. Obviously, that's something more to do with persistence. It's like, you go to the gym for a day even, and you think, oh, why haven't I, or you eat a salad and you think, why haven't I lost weight, or something like that. You need, sometimes things do take just a little bit more persistence. Now, of course, if you've been exercising and dieting for a year and you haven't seen any results, then of course maybe it's not something to do with persistence. Perhaps it's something to do with the fact that you actually just need to change your approach, and there's something that you're doing wrong. There's something that you need to change. It could be something to do with the food, it could be something to do with your exercising, whatever it may be. But you understand my point. So that's just one thing that I want to send across to you. You need to figure out which of those things it is. Do I need to tweak my approach? Do I need to change my approach? Or do I just need to persist a bit longer and carry on, give it more time? Because, we are very much like, in this society where we're a little bit like Veruca Salt from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, or whatever title. I can't remember the right title for it, the correct title of the book. But, Veruca Salt is very much, I want it now, I want it now. And sometimes we can be a little bit like that when it comes to our goals. And we just need to give it a bit more time. We just need to be a little bit more patient, right? So you need to figure out which one of that is for you in terms of your goals, in terms of the things that you feel like you've been failing at. Never be afraid to fail, because they will show you the right path. In fact, I think failures, so-called failures, show us great awakenings, and they can awaken something inside of us and change our lives completely. I mean, you know, I've gone through a few heartbreaks and things, and just some things that haven't been great, and some things that I saw at the time when I was going through them as like big failures and really heartbreaking and just really horrible. And then later on, I look back and think, oh, those are the best things that happened to me, because they made me search for answers. They made me, you know, like some of the biggest heartbreaks of my life have led me to stuff like this. Like if I didn't go through some tough things in my past, I wouldn't know this kind of stuff that I'm talking about. You know, they've opened up doorways to me. What it seems like a door is closed, it's actually opened something else. It's opened, another doorway has opened somewhere else. So just see, don't be afraid to fail, because they can actually lead you to your greater destiny. And I always welcome failure into my life, despite how uncomfortable they are at the time. And there's a great quote that Steve Jobs gave in his Stanford address, and you can search this video just anywhere. Just type in like Steve Jobs Stanford talk or address or something like that, and you should be able to find it. And he said in this talk, you can only connect the dots looking back. So if you're going through a failure right now and if it seems really heartbreaking, you know, at this time, yeah, it sucks. But later on, it could be a week down the line, or it could be in a couple of months, or it could be in a couple of years, or it could be in a couple of decades. One day you're going to look back on that failure and realize this was exactly what was supposed to happen. And yeah, that's why I think you shouldn't be afraid to fail, because you can only connect the dots looking back. So don't be afraid of failing right now. Don't be afraid of failure right now, because these things are going to show you eventually, even if it sucks right now, that this was exactly what was meant for you at exactly the right time. And that's my thoughts on why you should never be afraid to fail. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this channel, and please leave a like on this video as well if you have enjoyed it and if you found it informative. Thank you so much, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.